When MSI first delivered their Vigor GK71 keyboard to my desk, my first thought was, wait a second, MSI make keyboards? But reusing old gags aside, I was definitely very curious to see exactly what MSI of all people can contribute to the keyboard market with this very model. Now it is available in both red and blue switch variants, but unfortunately there is no option for people who like their switches tactile without it sounding like an old typewriter. Now these do use MSI's own Sonic switches, and the model I have right here uses their blue variant, which as someone who likes a good clicky keyboard, I do definitely appreciate. Now when it comes to actual press itself, well, it does definitely feel a bit lighter on the touch than most other blue switches I've tried, and the sound itself is a bit more high pitch and hollow. Though if something like the pitch of the sound of a keyboard switch is a make or break decision for you when buying a new keyboard, well, I feel sorry for you. So let's move on to a lot more important stuff. Now while it isn't 10 keyless, it does still definitely feel a lot more compact, as a row of keys and a bit smaller than my daily driver, the G915. The keys themselves are also rather unique, seeing how they're only half painted over, or maybe half transparent. Now this is to allow the RGB underneath to be seen way more easily, which is definitely a nice touch, and the RGB effects are pretty sweet, even if they are controlled with MSI's still rather annoying MSI Senja software. The only real other thing I can complain about when it comes to the keys is the legend, which for a lack of a better word is kind of, well, try-hardy? Like, you know what I mean, right? Just look at that N, which looks more like a table. Or look at that D, which looks more like an O. Or just look at that P, which reminds me of my Patreon, which is down in the video description below, which you should definitely check out. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Now, it's still easy enough to read, don't get me wrong, but again, it does feel a bit too edgy, if you know what I mean. Now, when it comes to the rest of the keyboard, you also have some additional media controls on the top right, with a nice classy volume knob as well to finish it off, though it does have a bit of a clicky sound to it, at least the model I have, which is a bit, well, distracting. However, of course, I've talked about one of the big features of this keyboard, and that is the wrist rest. Yes, this keyboard contains a comfortable enough wrist rest, which your hands sit on rather nicely. And while it does have MSI branding, it's still universal enough that you can pretty much use it with any keyboard and anywhere. Yeah. Speaking of anywhere part, the big weird thing about this wrist rest is that it doesn't properly attach to the keyboard. There's no mechanism for attaching it to the keyboard. Like, literally, MSI put in the work to make this pattern on the back of the keyboard and the wrist rest match up. However, they actually didn't put in any mechanism to properly attach the wrist rest to the unit so it doesn't just go flying around all over the place. Like, why? Now, don't get me wrong, it's good that you can use it anywhere, at any angle, and at any distance from the keyboard. However, I do still wish there was a way to just attach it to the keyboard, so you don't have to worry about it slipping or sliding across your desk while you're concentrating on not losing your 50th ranked game in a row. And for the price of the GK71 Sonic, it's just one of those things you'd imagine they'd iron out. And, oh yeah, speaking of the price, would you believe me if I told you that this keyboard from MSI, someone who isn't well known in the keyboard space, costs over $105 right now? Now then, for a company that doesn't have, you know, too large of a reputation in the keyboard space right now, creating such a high-end product is definitely ambitious. And okay, I'm sorry, but I don't think companies like MSI have any business making keyboards that are this expensive. But then again, I think that like any keyboard over $100 is a scam nowadays. And yes, I do understand the hypocrisy of that statement given how I run a G915. And I do understand that the wrist rest itself is also responsible for a majority of the price as well, but you know, maybe I'm just old. Seeing what kind of prices Logitech and Razer charge for the keyboards nowadays, $105 almost sounds refreshing, even if it's again from a company that doesn't have as strong of a foothold in the industry as those guys. So if you do trust MSI with delivering a good keyboard, and again, for the record, it is a pretty good keyboard, then sure, give it a shot. But by the time you're spending so much money, well, you can probably treat yourself to something from Logitech or Razer, or some other companies that we convinced ourselves make good keyboards even if they cost hundreds of dollars. Okay, I think I'm getting carried away. I could rant about the pricing of keyboards for hours, but I'm gonna leave you with this. It's a good keyboard, and if you want to buy it yourself, then Amazon links to it are going to be down in the video description below and up in the iCards. Plus also huge thanks to our patrons Gavin Burns, LKB, Justin Rage, Alavroniak, Dev Panda, Balosh Volker, Meg Sumner, Shane Ulcroft, Lansby, and Level Up. But anyway, that's about it, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then remember to subscribe, like, whatever, and I'll see you all in whatever I make next. Goodbye everyone. Goodbye.